Welcome, everyone, tonight. I'm so excited that you're here. If you're joining either live or later in the ethers, tonight's all going to be about the number one reason that you're staying sick. And so I'm going to be talking a lot about root cause. What's the root cause? What does that mean? How do we address the root cause? This is one of my favorite presentations or webinars to talks to give because it really helps you understand what addressing the root cause is about and why or what happens when we just address the symptoms and suppress the body. So that's what tonight's going to be all about. So I'm super excited to be here. And if you want to drop in as you're tuning in, coming in, where you're from, where you're visiting from, we'll have people joining probably in and out this evening so they can get a recap there. Just as behind the scenes, I'll be answering questions at the end of tonight, but feel free to drop them in the chat and Taylor can help keep track of those questions and also address any concerns or issues that you have if you're having problems with communication. Okay, so a little bit about me. My name is Dr. LuLu, and I'm a naturopathic physician and functional medicine practitioner. I've been practicing in the field of alternative health for over 20 years, which is crazy when I think about it. I first started out as a massage therapist. I worked at a yoga retreat center as a yoga instructor, teaching meditation, and I was a chef there as well. So I love cooking, love teaching people about food. I went to Bastyr University in Seattle, Washington, a beautiful place and a wonderful evidence-based medicine school. I am currently finishing up my functional medicine certification. I've been working with the functional medicine, the IFM, the Institute of Functional Medicine for the past 5 years, I think now, because COVID slowed it down a little bit. But I'm just finishing up my certification, but I've been working in that model for a long time. And naturopathic medicine is very similar to that model. It's just a little bit more, it's a different scope, so to speak. And I can talk more about that as well. If you're just joining in, I dropped in the PDF file into the chat so you can access it there. You can also access it in the portal, which we gave everybody access to as well. So you'll find it there. But also you can grab it in here, and if you can reach out to Taylor, she's in the chat to help you with anything if you're needing help with that. If you can just make sure that you pop any questions in the chat and I'll answer them at the end as well. So let's get started. I'm super excited to share with you the number one reason why you're staying sick, what that is all about. Let me get the presentation up and share it with you. Where'd it go? There it is. All right. I'm going to share my screen. Okay, perfect. And then I'm going to Great. Okay. Everybody can see me and hear me. Everything is good. Let me know if you can't and we're having any issues. I'm going to just make sure my chat is up over here so I can see. Okay, great. So the number one reason you're staying sick, right? Why have you been having issues that you just can't seem to kick, right? What is stuck? So we're going to talk a lot about root cause tonight and why those root cause symptoms have not been either addressed in the past, or maybe you're just coming forward and thinking like, man, maybe something's deeper in my illness and I need to get that addressed. That's what we're going to be talking all about tonight. So again, welcome. I'm so excited that you're here today. And why are you here? Drop it in the chat. Why are you here tonight? Are you here to learn more about why you're staying sick? Are you wondering what the root cause is? What's bringing you to tonight's event, right? So let me know over in the chat. Welcome to the number one reason you're staying sick. I'm so glad you're all here. We're going to be talking tonight about all the ways about the root cause of illness. So I'm so excited you're here today, and we're going to be talking about why it's important to address the root cause and not just symptom management, right? Suppressing your body's ability to heal. So let's talk about the Band-Aid trap and why treating symptoms is keeping you sick. I'm going to make sure. Okay, great. So this is an important concept I want you to wrap your head around. So when we have a symptom that comes up, what happens is that instead of addressing the root cause of that symptom, we Band-Aid it, right? So we slap something on top of it, and then it like the wound festers is a great way, a great example of that. So instead of addressing that symptom or that root cause of that symptom, then those symptoms just get bigger and expand instead of where you're addressing the root cause. So you can imagine basically like trying to fix a leaking roof by simply placing buckets to catch the water. Sure, you're managing that like immediate problem, but the underlying condition or the underlying issue continues to worsen, right? You can only have so many buckets. So this is exactly what happens when we treat symptoms without addressing the root cause. And it's the number one reason why so many people stay sick despite seeking help. They're not addressing that root cause. And this is what I was just saying here. So you can see with this beautiful image of this plant here, right? So if we're thinking about addressing the root cause, we call it the terrain in naturopathic medicine and functional medicine, where all those roots are. So we want to address everything that's happening in the roots. How are those roots getting their nutrients? How are they getting water? Are they getting minerals, right? What are those roots needing to support the tree, support the branches, support the leaves to growing to this beautiful tree? So let's talk about the cycle of symptom-based treatment. Okay, so here's how most people get stuck. And a symptom appears, right? So let's say you have fatigue, bloating, brain fog, pain, any type of symptom, right? So a treatment usually focuses on relieving those symptoms. That can be medications, pharmaceuticals, supplements, restrictive diets, and then a temporary relief occurs. But the problem is still there because the root cause has not been addressed. So you'll have this temporary relief, oh, like, okay, yeah, I'm feeling a little bit better, but it doesn't address the real root cause. So then new or stronger symptoms then then start to develop. And what then happens, more medications, treatments or interventions are then needed, right? Because you're having more symptoms. So you're like, okay, that's not working. I got to add on this medication or I have to add on this treatment or this supplement because the root cause again is not being addressed. So the cycle then continues and the body just keeps signaling for help, sending different signals, whether that's a signal from the nervous system, a signal from the digestive system, a signal from the thyroid, right? It's all the different systems of the body send signals for help. And so we still have these cycle, right? The cycle of symptom-based treatment. And that's one of the main reasons why you're still stuck being ill. Does that make sense to everybody? Drop it in the chat if that's happened to you. If you feel like you're in, or, oh yeah, that's happening to me. I'm in this cycle symptom-based treatment plan. Like nothing seems to be working and I seem to be getting worse. Drop a thumbs up or some kind of emoji. Right now, Andrea says, I've been there. Yeah, Taylor. Yeah, me too. Where it's just, okay, what? And a great example of that is pain. You have an injury and you'll have pain from that. And you try to, maybe you take pain medication or you're trying to help that pain to go away, but the pain actually gets worse because you can't quite figure out or address the root cause of that. Maybe it's a chiropractic adjustment that's needed, or maybe there's supplements that are needed, or maybe you need to address the trauma, right? Okay, so why this keeps you stuck, right? We're in this cycle, and then why are we staying stuck? So one, you're treating the surface, not the source, right? So you can think of if it's the big ocean, right? Where if you're just treating the very surface of that, nothing is ever going to go deep into the ocean, or that root tree analogy that I talked about earlier. If you're just adding a couple drops onto the leaf of the plant, it's not going to address what's happening in the root system, right? Then your body adapts, leading to more imbalances. And that's really important. So your body says, okay, you didn't really address this. Like it's sending you like knocking on the window. Hey, are you listening? Like what's happening? And instead of really addressing that root cause, your body then adapts and another thing happens in the system, which is why there's an epidemic of lots and lots of pharmaceuticals being prescribed, right? Because you'll see one doctor and that symptom doesn't really get any better. So they send you out to somebody else. And so they give you another supplement or another pharmaceutical, and that doesn't address the root cause. So then you have another thing coming up. So you end up chasing the symptoms instead of truly healing, right? It's like you're the hamster on the wheel, right? Constantly chasing that symptom instead of feeling that really deep root cause of true healing. And breaking free from this cycle means shifting from symptom management to addressing the root cause. Right? And that's what I want you to think about tonight in the webinar is, okay, how can I shift what I've been doing from this symptom cause place to a root cause place? And that's exactly what we're going to explore tonight. So understanding true root causes. So what are root causes? I've talked a little bit about them already. So root causes are the deeper imbalances in the body that trigger symptoms. They don't just exist in one place, right? Our body isn't just a shoulder, right? They're interconnected across multiple systems. So that's multiple organ systems, multiple communication pathways. So we have our nervous system, our spine, we have the hormonal communication system, right? So our body has many ways of communication. And within that, then we have communication breakdown, right? So here's what is really happening beneath the surface. So I love to think of the body as a web, right? Especially because we think of our brain and the spine and the nervous system, right? We have all these interconnected pieces coming out of the body, and we're this large interconnected web where everything is connecting back and forth, like the World Wide Web. Everything is connecting. So your body isn't just separate parts. It's a network where everything affects everything else. And we don't always realize that because our body is functioning all the time behind the scenes without us really knowing it. We're conscious of it, but there's a lot of subconscious activity happening. Otherwise, we would get overloaded, right? We'd be like, oh gosh, that's too much. I can't think about all that. So here's what some of those things. So the gut impacts brain function. That's the gut-brain connection. We have our hormones influencing the immune response, especially like vitamin D, an amazing hormone, cortisol, our stress hormone. We have inflammation. Inflammation affects mood and energy. Again, cortisol is a big piece of inflammation. We have stress disrupting digestion and recovery. We have sleep quality affecting hormones and metabolism. So you can see here that one piece of our body affects a lot of other systems. So that's why sometimes it is difficult when we don't address that root cause, because we could, for instance, if you had an immune, let's look at number 2 here. If you had an immune system problem happening and you only addressed the immune system, let's say you just took, I don't know, maybe you took vitamin C or something, but the real cause was deeper. It was a hormonal imbalance at the root cause. Maybe it was a vitamin D dysfunction. So your body is not going to get that true root cause help that it needs, if that makes sense. Drop a thumbs up if that made sense in the chat, so I know you're getting what I'm talking about. Awesome. Yay. Okay. Great. Glad everybody's on the same page. Okay, this is a big slide here. It's got a lot of information on it, so I'm going to talk you through it. Okay, so these are the four major categories of root causes. So number 1, systemic inflammation. And if you're new to learning about me and working with me, I talk a lot about inflammation. So if you're not new to me, you're probably like, oh yeah, Dr. LuLu talks about inflammation. So we have systemic inflammation. So things that can be tied to inflammation that we don't realize. Right? We're talking about all the root causes. So hidden infections, that could be a virus. It could be long COVID. It could be a herpes virus, any type of hidden infection. It could be bacterial or viral. A food sensitivity, that's a big one, because of food sensitivity, your body is having these small reactions to food over time that can create systemic inflammation, especially from leaky gut. We have environmental toxins. So that's everything in our environment that could be impacting us. That could be heavy metals, that could be the air we breathe, that could be mold. Gut permeability, I just mentioned that's leaky gut. Then we have our autoimmune responses. That's anytime our body thinks that something in our own body is a foreign invader, and then it attacks itself. So all of those cause systemic inflammation, root causes of that. Number 2 is we have hormonal disruption. So hormonal disruption, this can be from endocrine disruptors. So endocrine disruptors, anything that impacts our endocrine system. Stress response dysfunction. So that's our HPA axis, so our adrenal system, and cortisol. How our body sees stress and then reacts to stress and has a response to that stress, causing a dysfunction in our hormones. Cortisol is a huge component of how estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, DHEA, and melatonin all work within the body. Metabolic imbalances. Hormonal disruptions can have a metabolic imbalance as the root cause. A lot of that can be a thyroid component. That could be a hormonal piece with maybe it's PCOS and estrogen and progesterone and testosterone dysfunction. So all of these underlying issues can show a bigger symptomatic issue of a hormone disruption. And that could be something, maybe you're having irregular periods, right? It could be that you're having hot flashes. It could be that you're having irritable mood swings that are very erratic and all over the place, right? There's lots of pieces with hormonal disruption. Number 3 is digestive dysfunction. Everything begins and ends in the gut. So the gut is a place I always like to start when I'm working with patients. One is a microbiome imbalance, and microbiome means all the gut flora, right? So that means that you would have an imbalance of that would be too much good bacteria, not enough good bacteria and too much quote unquote bad bacteria, the bad guys or the bugs, right? And so that creates this microbiome imbalance causing this digestive dysfunction, meaning that you could have gas, bloating, diarrhea, constipation, GERD, all of those could be impacted. Enzyme deficiencies. So enzyme deficiencies, we have enzymes that start in the mouth and work all the way through the digestive system, through the pancreas, etc. And when those enzymes are not digesting food properly, it causes a dysfunction, especially in the bowels and through elimination, because we have larger particles of food, and then we're not assimilating, and we're not digesting properly. Number 3 is absorption. I just mentioned that with assimilation. So if we're not assimilating the proper nutrients, it's going to cause digestive dysfunction. It's like a endless spiral there. Gut barrier problems. So that kind of is the same thing I talked about earlier with leaky gut. So having leaky gut is when we have cells in the digestive system that we're supposed to have these really tight junctions that form together. But what happens is they become a little bit looser. We call them that tight junction becomes loose, and then things will start to float through that junction and go out into the bloodstream and cause systemic inflammation, but also it can create reactions to food sensitivities. We can have things that are going out into the bloodstream that are not supposed to be there, causing digestive dysfunction. Hidden infections. So that can be hidden infections within the digestive tract. That could be bacteria and viruses that are causing dysfunction, and that circles back to the microbiome. And number 4 is environmental factors. So we have lots of environmental factors, and I mentioned that a little bit earlier in number 1. So environmental factors are toxic exposure, that can be heavy metals, especially mold exposure and candida. We have electromagnetic stress, so EMF. We're seeing that a lot more now. I've seen it with patients as we have more and more EMFs in our system, not in our system, but in our system, our environmental system, right? As a planet, right? Functioning on our cell phones, our computer, all the EMFs around us. And I think we're going to see that developing a lot more, how that becomes more of a problem in the future. Air quality issues, right? So we have so much pollution around us. How do we then assimilate or move that through the system and detoxify it? Water contamination. For those people tuning in tonight from Asheville, we had a lot of water contamination with the hurricane. We know all about that, right? We want to make sure that we're drinking a good water source. Are you drinking good filtered water? How is that affecting your system? So the key to true healing, right? What does all this mean? So that's when we identify and address the root causes. So let's just take a moment. That was a lot of information, right? And I know I talk fast. So let's take a moment and look at this. Let's put some things in the chat. What are some things on here that you picked out? You're like, oh, maybe that might be one of my root problems. Or maybe you're like, maybe I just want to investigate that a little further. Put a little word in there. For me, I think personally, I've been having some food sensitivities. I'm going to put that as mine myself. I need to do a little food sensitivity introspection and detective work. So anybody else, is there a word out there on the screen that you see that you might identify with? I'll let you guys look at that for a moment. So yeah, food sensitivities is a big one. For me, it sneaks up on me. Dairy is usually the big one. Taylor said, I'd say I resonate with the hormonal disruption category. Yeah, that's a big one, right? Stress is a huge component. I think that affects many people and thyroid hormones. And so it's really interesting. How do we then address the root cause? Okay, so why the Band-Aid solutions fail? Oops. I think you probably can guess that, right? Because it's just a Band-Aid, but we're going to go into it a little bit deeper. And I talked about it earlier, but I'm going to talk about the masking effect and what that is. So here we have many people seek a quick relief, and our society wants everything to be quick, right? We want to be like, okay, so this is happening. I want the quick relief. But lots of times those symptoms have been going on for a long period of time. It's just they get exasperated and we haven't been addressing the root cause. Most of the time when patients come in to see me, they will say, I've had XYZ. And we do like a timeline analysis. And we're saying, like, it really started here. I'm like, this started 5 years ago. A quick fix for you is not going to be, there's not really a quick fix. We want to have a quick solution, but we have to address the root cause. So short term fixes don't lead to long-term feeling. But sometimes, that being said, sometimes we have to work at, we call it a higher therapeutic order in naturopathic medicine. We have to work at a higher therapeutic order to give you some relief, right? We're like, okay, we've got to stop your diarrhea, for instance. Okay, we got to stop your diarrhea so that we can help get in there and what's going on with your gut. So sometimes we have to stop something to allow the body relief and then to come in to do the healing at that deeper solution. So Band-Aid solutions mask the problem, right? They mask the problem, allowing that real issue to worsen over time. So the masking effect. So the hidden dangers of Band-Aid solutions, and this is why I really want to talk about with you all today. So when we mask the symptoms without addressing their cause, these are the things that can happen. So we lose important information about what's wrong, right? It's everything gets in the soup, and we're like, you're trying to fish for the answers. Is it this? Is it that? Is it that? I don't know, because there's so many different things. So it's like the message system in our brain gets jumbled, and that soup gets too cloudy, right? It's too mixed up. The body has to find new ways to signal, because these problems you haven't been listening, right? Wait, I sent you this message, but you didn't hear me. Okay, I got to send you the message in a different way. And then you don't listen to that message. So the body says, I got to send the message again. The underlying issue continues to progress, right? It's okay, you didn't address it. It's going to get worse. Until we address that, those underlying issues continue to grow. It's like the onion effect, right? We have that one layer affects us, and we have the other layer and the other layer. New symptoms often emerge in different areas, and that's very common. So you'll be having some things going on, and all of a sudden, because you haven't been addressing the root cause, you have a whole other layer of other symptoms. You're like, I never had these digestive things before. It was all about my thyroid. You're like, you didn't address the thyroid, and then these other things started happening. And the original problem becomes harder to identify. And that's a lot of times why patients seek out someone like myself as a naturopathic physician and functional medicine provider, because I know, put on the detective hat, and I can dive deep in that with a magnifying glass and see what's going on to help see what's going on in the body. Okay, the hidden dangers of Band-Aid solutions. Oops. So your body this is the compensation spiral. So you can think of it like we're going into this spiral, right? Your body's compensating. So your body is constantly trying to maintain balance. That's its whole goal in life, is to have homeostasis. How can I bring myself back to homeostasis? Going over this side. Okay, got to adjust. Maybe I need to drink more water. Okay, I'm feeling good. Now I need to, maybe I drank too much water. I need to go back to this side, right? So when we suppress symptoms, suppressing without a Band-Aid effect, without addressing their cause, the body must work harder to compensate. Initial compensation, number one, the body diverts resources, and then other systems strain, and your energy reserves depleted. That's a big one. Oh, I'm so tired. I just don't have any energy, right? Because your energy reserves, all the mitochondria, those powerhouses of the body, that battery within your system. You can think your body is one big battery. And if it's constantly trying to divert energy into another area, that battery becomes depleted. and your resilience decreases, which is huge for longevity. Those telomeres at the end of the DNA start to thread and become shorter. Your resilience to bounce back to illnesses decreases. So find yourself being sicker and sicker, easier and easier. Number two is secondary effects. So first we had that initial, and then secondarily, new symptoms emerge. So you've had all these symptoms you've been dealing with, and all of a sudden you're not addressing them at the root cause, and you have another layer that comes up with the new symptoms. Different systems stress. So then you start to have different systems in the body be stressed. And that could be, say, for instance, you originally had this thyroid condition going on and you weren't addressing the root cause. Maybe you were just given levothyroxine and you never addressed the real issue of the thyroid. And so then different systems started to compensate, like the adrenal system and the hormonal system. Okay. And then additional compensation is needed, right? So it's okay if you don't address it. I have to start compensating in different areas of my body to allow energy to go to the original source of the dysfunction. And then you get further depleted. So you can see what's happening with this compensation spiral. And then unfortunately, we have a downward spiral. So multiple systems are affected. This is that chronic disease state. Multiple systems then become affected. So we have one thing happen. We didn't address it. A second thing happens, didn't address it. A third thing happens, we didn't address it, and then it multiplies. And then increased compensation becomes necessary because we haven't addressed it. And that can sometimes develop, a lot of times is that chronic disease state where you're really having a hard time functioning in life. And then again, that chronic illness develops. Does that make sense to everyone? Drop a little emoji over there, a thumbs up, or maybe a smiley, or a sad face, right? Well, is this compensation spiral making sense? Yes. Okay, great, Andrea. Okay, so let's talk about the cycle of dependence and why more medications and treatments aren't the answer. Oh, great, Cece. I'm glad that's making sense. Okay, so the cycle of dependence, why more medications and treatments. I don't know why it keeps having this at the top up here. Sorry about that. It came from another slide. But the cycle of dependence, why more medications and treatments aren't the answer. So, one, many people get trapped in the never ending cycle of symptom suppression. I need to rely on more medications, or I need to rely on more supplements and treatments. Supplements aren't the answer either. They can be helpful, and sometimes medication can be helpful and is needed. But we want to realize that we get into it's not the solution. Again, not addressing the root cause. So, how the cycle of dependence works. So, one, a symptom appears. A quick fix is applied. That Band-Aid, temporary relief occurs. Like, let's give an example of a headache, right? Okay, maybe you have a migraine. Maybe you take the quick fix as a pain medication, or maybe it's a migraine medication. You have temporary relief, right? Okay, it goes away, and then new or worsening symptoms develop. Maybe then the next time you have a migraine, you're like, oh, now actually my neck and shoulders are hurting too. What's happening? Or maybe maybe it's connected with your cycle. You have that migraine, and then maybe you had cramps before, but now those cramps are unbearable. So new or worsening symptoms develop. And then more interventions are needed or additional treatment. So, okay, I got to bring in something else. So you bring in something else to help it. And then that cycle continues. It's a cycle of dependence. So why does this keep us stuck? Why are we stuck? So we become dependent on the treatment, right? Because we feel like, one, if we don't do that treatment, we're never going to get better, right? Because it's giving us some sort of relief, right? But your body's underlying dysfunction continues. Again, that Band-Aid effect. And you're just chasing the symptoms. That little hamster on the hamster wheel, you're just chasing those symptoms. And that longer that cycle continues, the harder it is to heal. And that's when that chronic disease state kicks in. Because no matter until we get off the hamster wheel, look at that hamster wheel from the outside perspective, it's going to keep on spiraling. So how do we break free from the cycle? Excuse me. Right? How do we break free? We have this cycle. So how do we do that? So one, we have to shift from symptom management to root cause healing, root cause healing. We have to use functional testing to identify what's truly driving your health concerns, right? We have to look at that functional medicine model. We have to really dive deeper. We have to support the body's innate ability to heal with the right strategies. Strategies can be herbs, supplements, nutraceuticals, biohacking techniques, a hot bath, nutrition, right? There's all these pieces that can help, the right strategies. Then we want to create a long-term plan for lasting health and vitality, right? Getting to that root cause it doesn't always happen overnight. It can, right? We're like, oh yeah, boom, we got it. But if you've been, again, like I said, in that chronic state of health for a long time, it takes a longer time to heal. Question coming in from Andrea: why do Western medicine doctors always push meds and not to find the root cause, or try not to find the root cause? So that's a great question. So one of the main reasons that happens is their training. They're not trained to address the root cause. That's not how their vision works as a MD. That's not their training. As a naturopathic physician and functional medicine practitioner, I'm trained from the very beginning to look at the root cause at all pieces. Look at the symptoms, but what's underlying that? What's the root cause? So the MD only has a certain amount of things in their toolbox. That toolbox is very small. It's pharmaceutical based. They're not even trained in nutrition. They only get one class. So they don't even know that component. So if you're only given one toolbox, you only can push or prescribe one tool. And that's really unfortunate. That's why our medical model is failing, because you can't have one toolbox. We're not just one individual, right? Or as an individual, we're individuals, we're all the same. Sorry, that came out weird. And if we prescribe the same thing to every single person that shows that same symptom, that it's not going to work, right? Because those symptoms are not addressing the root cause. Yes, Taylor. Yes, you're right. That totally gets a high five. Amen, right? Okay. The hidden cost of Band-Aid solutions. This is a huge one, right? So let's talk about that. So the true cost of ignoring root causes, when we rely on symptom management instead of addressing the root cause, comes with a cost. We have a physical, emotional, and financial burden. Physical costs. I love this little ambulance up here. That's totally what happens, right? Unfortunately, we're like, woo, woo, the ambulance is totally coming. One, physical body, physical costs, worsening underlying conditions. You got to go back to the doctor. Number two, development of new problem. You got to go back to the doctor, more cost. Decreased overall function. Maybe you're getting so ill that you're missing time at work. You can't spend time with your family. Things you used to do, you can't do anymore. Reduced healing capacity. Your ability to actually heal reduces because, remember, I talked about that battery shortens, right? So it's physical costs, that battery lessens, and you have accelerated aging. Your telomeres, again, that DNA starts to be affected and your aging accelerates. That timeline shortens of your life. Scary. Okay, emotional costs. This is a big one, right? When that root cause is not addressed, we feel it in our body, deep within our heart and cells, our being, right? We're frustrated, we're hopeless. We're like, why can't I get better? We have that loss of trust in healthcare. Just like Andrea was saying, we're like, no matter how many doctors I see, nobody can help me. Nobody can help me feel better. Nobody can figure out what's going on. It's like you lose so much trust in our healthcare system. Decreased quality of life. Your quality of life has totally gone down. It's causing this emotional disruption in your system because and depression is a big piece of that. Relationship strain, your relationship with yourself, your relationship with your family, your relationship with your loved one, your relationship with partner, your relationship with your coworkers. All of that takes a toll. Mental exhaustion. It's so exhausting to constantly have to think about being ill, being in that cycle of, am I ever going to get better? Why is this happening? It's that hamster wheel of life, of illness, when you're in that emotional cost place. And then financial costs, huge, right? Ongoing treatment expenses. It's very expensive. Lots of my patients don't have a good insurance model, right? Multiple practitioner visits, going to this person and that person. Temporary solutions, right? So you just get a little temporary solution and then you have to pay for another one. lost work time, right? You're like, "Oh, I can't go to work today. I just feel horrible, right? And you're like, I gotta just take a mental health day, or maybe I just need to take a physical illness day. And you're like, oh, I can't come into work today. I'm sorry, I still don't feel good. And decreased earning. It's like you have all this financial costs, but then you can't go to work. It's not a good situation, right? Let's see. And then what did Andrea said here? I have lost faith and trust with all my doctors, always say they don't know what's going on and they can't help me. I know that's got to be so frustrating, right? It's like you go from one doctor to the next and they say, I don't know what's wrong. I can't help you. I don't know what's wrong. I can't help you. It's because they're looking at that symptom. They do tests. And so they do test after test because they're trying to figure out what's going on. Okay, so what's the solution, right? Let's all take a deep breath because that could be depressing. One thing about that is our healing does come within, right? Oops, I forgot a little letter on there. It's just to say instead, our healing comes from within, right? So that is a piece, and we the other people out there around us are not quote unquote fixing us. Why, as a naturopathic physician and functional medicine provider, I'm looking at the root cause to help you ignite the healing within you, right? So that you can be in charge and be empowered of your own healing instead of it being a band aid solution, which doesn't help empower you to heal. So instead of continuing that cycle of temporary relief, we want to focus on a few things. One, we want to identify the true cause of your symptoms. Boom, right there. We want to see, okay, what's going on? What's the real root cause? Two, we want to address the underlying imbalance for long-term wellness. Of course, we want to feel like what's going on? Why am I out of balance? Because that's going to create sustainability. And then healing your body from the inside out instead of just masking. And that's what I was saying about where that true place of healing comes from. We have to look at the systems of the body, physically, emotionally, spiritually, mentally, all of those. It's a holistic model. We can't just treat a symptom. It doesn't address all the other layers. Okay, signs you're stuck in the Band-Aid cycle. I think you probably can tell from what we've already been talking about what some of these might be. Okay, so oops. If you're constantly managing symptoms, but never truly healing, right? You might be caught in that Band-Aid cycle. So here's how to recognize if this cycle is keeping you stuck. Treatment patterns that keep you trapped. Okay. That's a big word, right? You're like trapped in this. You're like, and I hear a lot from patients. You can't even see out of the bubble of where your illness is because you're in this constant place of the only thing you can think about is being ill. And you can't even like really step out of what it even feels like to be well because it's been so long since you even felt well, right? So these treatment patterns and these symptoms keep you trapped in that place of illness. And relief is only temporary. You're like, oh, I got 5 minutes of relief today, and that was it. Symptoms return as soon as that treatment stops. You're like, okay, maybe you go get some acupuncture. You're like, oh, I felt better for an hour, or I felt better for a day, but then those things came right back. New symptoms keep emerging. You're like, oh boy, I had this, I had the headache, the migraine. Now I'm having the cramping. Now I'm really having heavy bleeding. And now my cycles are all off and irregular. So symptoms keep coming on. Treatments become less effective. That's a huge one. It's like you're trying this medication or this supplement, it stops working. You try another one, that stops working. The treatments become less effective. And then multiple medications needed. That is our epidemic that we're in right now in the society. I was listening to a talk last week, and one of the doctors was saying that on an average, most patients come in with 8 to 10 pharmaceuticals. That's so crazy when I think about that. And that's a place where it's when we're having to have a suitcase full of our supplements that we have to carry around, or pharmaceuticals we have to carry around with us all the time to help dampen those with that Band-Aid. So constant practitioner hopping. We're like, okay, this doctor didn't help me. Let me try someone else. That practitioner didn't help me. Let me try someone else. So body signals that you're not healing. Okay. So Energy never fully returns. That's that battery that I was talking about. Maybe you have a little boop, you have a little bit of battery, but then it goes right back to being, and maybe even less than before. So it's like little like spurts or bursts of energy. Sleep quality remains poor. That's very common when the body starts to be addressed with symptoms instead of addressing the root cause. Because again, that hormonal umbrella starts to change, and melatonin and cortisol are a big piece of that, and that sleep quality starts to change. Digestion issues persist. So again, gas, bloating, diarrhea, constipation, even further dysbiosis. Mood remains unstable. So I just have been in this place of depression and I just can't seem to get out no matter what I do. And it's like like you're in this fog of depression. Inflammation continues. You're in a place of pain, and no matter what, you just can't get out of it. You're like, and it's chronic, right? It's like this, and that's a pain cycle that just like you have to break it because it's this constant, again, that tape loop is running on full speed. And recovery is incomplete, right? You never get into the full recovery state. So breaking free, the true path to healing. So if you're tired of symptom chasing and temporary relief, it's time to take a new approach, right? One that focuses on healing from the inside out. And that's the root cause approach, right? And not that symptom approach. Instead of masking the symptom, like we talked about, that band-aid effect, true healing means addressing the underlying imbalances in your body, right? Holistically, physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. So the root cause approach. So number one, comprehensive assessment. So we want to understand your unique picture, right? So first of all, it's individualized medicine. It's not cookie cutter, right? If you go into the doctor and A, B, C, D, E, all get the same prescription because of that same symptom, that's cookie cutter medicine, right? You need to be looked at in the individual layer to see everything that's been going on in your timeline, reviewing your past health history and past treatments. We have to identify patterns and symptom triggers. What are some of the patterns? Maybe, for example, when you were a little kid, you had sinus infections and colds and flus all the time, and then you got antibiotics every couple months. So then now when you're an adult, you have food allergies, food intolerances, you have constipation and diarrhea, you have immune system dysfunction, things that then relate back to that root cause, right? So we want to explore root causes through functional medicine testing and through that lens, right? We want to see, okay, I always say to test and not guess, right? Because if we're guessing something, I can't see what's going on in my patient's body. I can, from a clear symptom picture, that wasn't the correct terminology, from a thorough history of the patient, I can see on the timeline things that will lead me to think like, oh, it's probably this. It's probably their body is not detoxing properly and they're not getting enough energy. I can see those things. But then a lot of times I want to have a functional medicine test come up behind it so I can see, oh yeah, look, it's this, your gut's out of balance and it's this bacteria. We need to bring in this protocol to help kill the bacteria and bring in good bacteria. That's a good example. Strategic healing. Okay. So strategic healing comes about building a strong foundation. So we want to support key body systems, gut, hormones, detox pathways. We want to support the systems to allow the strong foundation. Our body cannot exist on, if you think of a chair, a three-legged chair, right? The chair is going to fall over. So we have to build a strong foundation with water, sleep, exercise, nutrition. We have to build the strong foundation. We want to remove obstacles to healing, toxins, physical, emotional, mental, places of inflammation, inflammatory foods, etc., infections, viral, bacterial. We want to restore balance with nutrition, lifestyle, and targeted support. And then long-term wellness, we want to create a sustainable approach to health. We want to strengthening resilience and energy. We want to strengthen your body, have it be resilient to things that come its way. We want to optimize your body's natural healing capacity, right? As I mentioned, we want to ignite your body's innate ability to heal, what it was born with. We want to prevent the symptoms from returning by maintaining true balance, bringing your body back to homeostasis. Okay, the journey to real health. So healing isn't about temporary relief. It's about, again, building the foundation for lasting wellness by addressing the root causes of imbalance in your body. So there's three phases of real healing I wanted to talk to you about today. So one, we want to foundation first, like I mentioned, lay the groundwork, right? We have to lay that groundwork to provide stability. Otherwise, we can't come in and bring all these other things in if we don't have the foundation, because your body won't be stable, right? So we have to bring in that foundation first. System support. We're going to support the core systems. So supporting core systems, the core systems of the body: gut, hormone, detoxification, energy. That's the mitochondria, right? All the systems in the body that create the core pieces. We want to restore, restoration. We want to rebuild strength and function, things that weren't working well before. Like I mentioned with the gut, maybe your gut is, yeah, my gut just hasn't been working well for 5 years, right? I just can't seem to get over that hump, right? So we want to rebuild strength in the body and rebuild function, right? So that way your body's in the place of healing. We want to bring in balance back into the system and also healing interventions. That's all it's going to restore. So foundation, restore, and then optimization. We want to help you achieve long-term vitality by maintaining resilience. So again, we want to bring in resilience, but we want to help you maintain resilience. We want to prevent future symptoms, right? Instead of more coming on, we want to help prevent those from happening in the future. And we want you to thrive, not just survive, right? Move out of the survival mentality into a thriving mentality. So how do we create the healing plan from that? What does that even look like? So now that we explored the importance of root cause healing, it's really time to create the personalized plan that supports your body's natural ability to heal, right? So we've laid all this foundation and then we start to create the plan. This is where that 3-phase healing approach comes into play. So I want to do a great assessment. We want to understand your health blueprint. What's going on with you, right? That assessment allows me to see that full health history. But it's not just me, it's you and me, right? As a naturopathic physician and functional medicine practitioner, it's a partnership. That's another difference between Andrea was asking about the Western medical model. It's not a partnership. It's the doctor telling the patient what to do. That doesn't work, right? It's a partnership that together, like, how is this for you? Is this going to work for you? Is this something that you can do? How does this feel with you? Is this something that you're able to go out and start practicing in your life? If not, then it doesn't work, right? So that comes from a comprehensive health history review, that timeline where we can see all the things that have brought you to this place in time. Identifying symptom patterns and root causes. We're going to say, okay, oh, look at this. You had, again, like I mentioned, you had those antibiotics when you were a kid. Look at all these things that are happening in your life now that point back to that dysbiosis in the gut. Explore functional lab testing options if needed, right? As in maybe you need a GI map for the gut. Maybe you need a nutritional evaluation to see if your body totally depleted of all nutrients. Are you not assimilating well? Maybe you need a hormone panel. Maybe you need a thyroid panel, right? What is going to help see the root cause and then excel you further? Okay, so that's number one. And number two, again, foundation, laying the groundwork for healing. So we want to, again, support those key body systems, all those systems in the body that have become imbalanced. And we want to remove the obstacles to healing. And sometimes that can be difficult to see. Okay, maybe for instance, you have celiac disease that you never knew, but you've been having all these digestive components. So then removing gluten and all forms of gluten is your obstacle to healing. And then implementing nutritional and lifestyle adjustments that are going to help support you in that next phase. And that's what this 3-phase pyramid is about. And again, the third phase is restoration, achieving long-term wellness. So we have to rebuild cellular health and energy, because without that, the cell, if it doesn't have the components of a good mitochondria and all the components within the cell to be a healthy cell, it's going to replicate into a poor cell over and over again. That's like with a cancer cell. Once you have that cancer cell, it replicates into another cancer cell. We don't want to have bad cells replicating. We want to build a great healthy cell filled with mitochondria and nutrients, and then help that to replicate. We want to strengthen resilience again in that stress response, really addressing stress, because stress, again, or if I haven't mentioned it enough tonight, is a huge underlying component of most people's lives. And we put it so much on the back burner that it's running behind us in the scenes that we don't always even notice it. And then optimizing lifestyle strategies for lasting vitality. Again, addressing the strategies that work for you, that are designed for you, that you love doing, right? Have you ever gotten a recommendation from someone and a practitioner, and you get home and you're like, there is no way I'm doing that. That is just not something I can do. You try it and you're like, it just doesn't resonate with me. So we want to create strategies for you that you love, that you're like, oh yeah, I love making that green juice in the morning. It gives me energy, it gives me vitality, it helps me get going. You want to have those pieces of your foundation intact. So the power of root cause resolution. That's so key. So when we address the root cause, here's this beautiful tree with roots. When we address the root cause rather than the symptoms, it's the key to lasting health and vitality. It's the real key. It's going to unlock all those doors. And when we then shift our body into the focus of healing at the source, at the root, our body restores naturally. It becomes in balance. It brings ourselves back to that place of homeostasis. So what are some immediate benefits of root cause healing? So one, we have clarity and direction. We're like, I'm starting to feel better. I can see the path forward. I can see things where we're moving. I can see the direction that things are moving in. We have more energy and vitality. That battery is starting to fill up, right? We got more energy to do things. Like maybe a month ago, you couldn't even get out of bed. And then this month you're like, okay, now I can walk around the block every day for 30 minutes, right? Whatever that is, whatever that looks around, maybe it takes you 30 minutes to walk around the block, but around the neighborhood is what I was trying to say. Whatever that looks like for you, everyone's different. Would it look like to you? What is your goal with energy and vitality? Less frustration. You're like, I feel so less frustrated. I have hope and I can see the future of that path. And then confidence in your healing plan. You're like, yes, I can feel this working. I know it's going to work. And I believe in myself, and I believe in my practitioner. I believe in, if you're working with me, I believe in Dr. LuLu. So long-term gains, what are some of those long-term gains when we address the root cause? True healing occurs, right? We're not just addressing the symptoms. We have better resilience and function. Our body responds better to stress, to immunity, to emotional trauma, anything. It responds better and functions better. We have sustained energy. We're able to do things we want. We have mental clarity. Our brain fog is gone. We can think better. We can focus. And we're stable. Our health is stable. We're like a strong tree rooted in the ground, right? And then we have lifelong vitality. We're able to see the picture of our life. Like, oh yeah, I can see this longevity, right? And laying out before me. And your body has an incredible capacity to heal when given the right support. But that's the piece where the root cause connection comes in. So what does your path forward look like, right? So if you're addressing the root cause, what does that even look like? So if you're ready to break free from the Band-Aid cycle and experience true healing, here's what it looks like. The first step is uncovering and addressing the root cause of your health challenges, right? No more Band-Aiding. Let's work together to create a plan that's tailored to your unique body needs. I suggest making, I don't know why I keep doing that. I suggest making a root cause discovery consultation with me. It's a free visit. And in your session, this is what we'll talk about. It's 20 minutes. You'll have a little intake form. I'll review, and then we meet together. I review with you your health history, some key points that I can see that might be contributing to where you're at. We identify symptom patterns. We discuss potential root causes, right? Oh, I can see this. This is probably the pattern of what's going on. Let's dive deeper. We can explore functional testing options. It looks like you might be having some food intolerance issues. I think we should do a food intolerance test, something like that. Create an initial healing strategy. So what does that look like? What program do you want to go into, or that package that fits for you? What do those visits look like? Are we going to do functional medicine testing, etc.? And determine if we're a good fit. Working on your health is not always easy. And working with me, I support you, but it's a partnership. So what does that look like? think there's somebody had a message. Make sure. Oh, yay. Thank you, Taylor. Taylor just popped into the chat for everybody the link to book a discovery session. Thank you so much, Taylor. So we'll also send out a recap of this webinar tonight, and you'll have the link in there for you to book a discovery session. But there's the link right for you, and you can just do that super easy. And then, okay, so why this approach works, why does the root cause, and I've talked about this tonight in detail. So this is a summary of that. So a comprehensive analysis, a data-driven healing plan. So when working with me, that root cause discovery call moves into a larger visit. And through that root discovery consultation and analysis, we dive deeper, right? Full history review, pattern recognition, symptom evaluation. I look at all the symptoms in the systems of your body, not just, and I piece them together like a big puzzle. We're going to connect the maps, connect the dots. We're going to do strategy development. And then we're going to do personalized support. I guide you every step of the way, doing a unique and individualized program and healing plan for you because you're a unique individual. Individual assessments, custom protocols, ongoing guidance from me, progress monitoring, and strategy adjustments. What really helps you move forward and then help you achieve lasting results, right? It's not just, like I said, a quick fix, right? You want to address the root cause. You want to invest in something that's long-term for your well-being, where true healing happens. Systems rebalance. Function improves, right? That you're able to move the body pain-free. Your hormones are acting or functioning great. Your cycles are back on track. You're not having the same reactions to stress. You're not feeling anxiety every day when you wake up, whatever that looks like. Your health then stabilizes and vitality returns, right? So all of that happens when you work with me, which is amazing. When I look at that, I'm like, woohoo, that's what I do. High five. And so again, don't let the Band-Aid solutions keep you stuck in the cycle of chronic illness, right? This is 2025. This is the time for you to break free of the cage that you're in when it comes to the symptom addressing disease, right? You want to be in the root cause disease model, right? Where we're addressing the root cause of dysfunction. I don't even like the word disease. We're addressing the root cause of dysfunction, right? And that's how you get better. That's how you gain your life back. That's how you regain your freedom. That's how you regain the willingness and the love to do what you want to do out there, whether that's spend time with your family, spend time with your grandkids, run a marathon, maybe just walk around the block. Eat the foods you love, have kids, whatever your goals are for your health, let's make them happen together. So again, that link is in the chat. We'll be sending it out in a recap too. So you can grab it there and you can book your free discovery call because remember, your body has an amazing capacity for healing when given the right support and attention to root causes, right? And if you've been working with different practitioners, whether that's in the naturopathic, functional medicine, Western medicine, and you haven't been feeling better, it's most likely because that root cause isn't being addressed. So true healing is possible when you address what's really going on beneath the surface. And that could be physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual, or a combination of all the above. Okay. Woohoo! 6:04. We went a little bit over. I started a little bit late, but I'm going to stop the share so you can see me. Woohoo, there I am. Oh, it's all dark in my room. I didn't really look at the lights off. Let me turn those on. Are there any questions? I was sitting in the dark. Maybe that's what you've been experiencing with your state of chronic illness, right? Being in the dark. Let's turn those lights on for helping you feel better. Any questions out there? Does anybody have any burning questions about root cause that I talked about tonight? Any questions about the discovery call? Anything? Any burning questions? I don't think I missed anything in the chat. Also, if you want to ask something to the group tonight and you feel that's something that you feel comfortable with, you can be on video and I can answer a question that way too. That's always great. I'd be more than happy to do that if anybody wants to ask questions. I must have answered them all then. If you have any follow-up questions for me, you can send us a message in the patient portal. If you are new to working with us, we added you to the patient portal. And so you can send me a direct question. You can also send Taylor a direct question. You can also email. Taylor, can you drop in your email and then the info email into the chat? So you can send myself and Taylor a direct email or message in the patient portal. We're going to send out a recap of this amazing webinar tonight. And you also have the PDF, and you'll be able to just read through on your own everything that I addressed tonight and put some thought into it, right? Take a time. It was a lot to digest, right? Especially if you're in a chronic disease state right now. It's a lot to digest. You're like, it's frustrating. And I totally get it. And I hear you. I can feel you out there, even if you don't feel comfortable talking about it now, right? I feel you. And I understand that it's a hard place to be when you're not feeling it well. And it's time for you to feel better. It's no more sitting around, right? Now's the time to feel better. Now's the time to really have the best life that you've been dreaming about. There's no reason to wait, right? And I'm here to help you. And if I'm not the one, then find the person who is, because your life is worth it. You're worth it. And there's the emails that, thanks, Taylor. She dropped those in for you. So you can reach out to us if you have any questions about tonight. Also, like I said, you can drop in the patient portal. And I thank all of you for attending tonight and bringing your precious time into our group session this evening. For those of you that couldn't make it, I hope we connect in another way. And thank you all for attending. I really appreciate it. And if that's it, then we'll tune out for tonight.